Hello everyone, today we'll do a culturally responsive lesson on one section of the poetry collection, The World of Made and Unmade by Jane Mead. The outcome of this lesson is to discover possibilities, form tentative understanding, interpretations, and positions. 2. Understand and appreciate textual forms, elements, and techniques. Relate elements, devices, and techniques to created effects. Appreciate the effectiveness and artistry of print and non-print text. The learning objectives of this lesson is to 1. Form personal interpretation of poetry and express one's interpretation in multiple forms, including visual and oral. 2. Explore the effects of poetic techniques such as repetition. 3. Appreciate the effectiveness and artistry of poetry. Jane Mead is an American poet, author of 5 poetry collections. Here are Jane Mead's 5 poetry collections. I have used a timeline to show her collection with the cover photos of each collection. In this way, visual learners can learn more effectively. The context of the poem is that the author is the major caretaker of her dying mother who has made several attempts to commit suicides. Then I'll give students 2 to 3 minutes to go through the poem on their own. Then the teacher will read aloud to help auditory learners to grasp a better understanding of the poem. Also, images are added to help ELL learners to understand some vocabularies that are less common. In my dream, my mother comes with me. We're in the meadows we call the flats, walking the dog. Walk straight past the water trough, she says. Do not engage the moss. Go back to the top of the page, the dream says, and leave out the suicides. In my dream, I walk and walk. After a time, no mother. After a time, no dogs. Just a field of dry grasses. And me and the walking. Then just the walking. Next, students will answer the following question by drawing it out. How does this poem make you feel? Please draw the images in your mind on a piece of paper. Then, students will use another piece of paper to write down 3 words that summarize their initial thoughts on the poem. For example, dream, walking, dry grasses. By giving an example, students will have a better understanding of what to do. Then comes the snowball activity. Students will crumble the paper with 3 words into a snowball and throw it across the room. Then each student would pick up one that is not theirs. Then the teacher will invite volunteers to read aloud the paper that they have in hand. Then hopefully the original writer will volunteer to share his or her drawing and share her initial thoughts on the poem. The purpose of this activity is to create a more comfortable environment for students to express their interpretation of the poem and their initial thoughts on the poem. The last activity of this lesson is a group discussion or individual reflection. Students will have to answer the following questions either by discussing in groups or writing an individual reflection on paper. So the 2 questions are, given the context of the author's caring for a dying parent, do you feel the poem is effective in illustrating the complexity of emotions that goes into that kind of relationship? 2. What effect does the repetition in the poem create? Here are the culturally responsive teaching strategies that I have used in this lesson. First, offer lesson objectives to help intrapersonal learners to learn more effectively. 2. To provide timeline for visual learners. 3. Provide illustrations and annotations of challenging vocabularies for ELL students. 4. Reading the poem aloud for auditory learners. 5. Conduct a snowball activity to encourage students who are less comfortable to speak in public to express their ideas in front of the group. 6. Allow students to have options to choose from, either to discuss in groups or to write an individual reflection.